As the cool metallic tang of ionized air struck my nostrils, I surged forward, pursuing the flickering shadows dashed across the corridor walls of the arcology. Behind me, the sounds of frenetic footsteps echoed quicker, closer. Danger sharpened my senses, transforming the usual drone of the city into a symphony of urgency. I glanced down at my wrist console, its screen pulsing with a holographic map, a stark reminder of the stakes. 2 minutes until lockdown, a heartbeat, a choice. The corridors of the arcology, a monumental structure that had soared skyward for centuries, had housed countless stories. Some popular, many forgotten. My family, specifically the Sorens, had been woven tightly into the fabric of its history. Yet, right now, I felt more like a piece of debris trapped in a colossal machine. "Rhea, slow down." Nilo's voice echoed behind me, the weight of his concern palpable. His energy was infectious, as always, but this time it felt heavy, burdened by unsaid words. I could almost see his brow furrowed behind the silver veil of my peripheral vision. "Stop dragging your feet, Nilo, if the council finds us here." I hissed, forcing my legs to move faster as I rounded a corner, the dim, flickering lights casting dancing shadows that seemed to taunt me. We could not afford the council to find us trespassing in the obsolescence sector. Not today, after everything that had happened. The memory still clawed at my chest like a wild beast. Hours ago, the council had announced the championship enactment, the final initiative to test the citizens' feasibility in the new society. All of it marred by the fact that there had only been talk of a rite of passage leading to liberation, not of more stringent control. Everyone in the city applauded, oblivious to the deeper currents flowing beneath the council's painted smile. I had seen the truth in the glances exchanged during last week's assembly, whispers of dissent vibrating through the air. I knew too much, and Nilo was involved whether I wanted him to be or not. Rhea, he caught up, effortlessly matching my pace, his breath labored yet unyielding. "We can't just not now. We have to find the data packages." I grunted, my jaw set in frustration. For all his loyalty, Nilo had a knack for bringing up pragmatism at the worst times. Typical. If we don't expose their plans, we're done for. All of us. A jolt ran through my veins as I recalled the signs I would stumbled upon a couple of days ago about the council's secret project, code, named Nexus. Some whispered it was a plan for mind control, while others simply believed it was another stratagem to maintain their repeatedly questioned authority. Whichever it was, I could not let it manifest unchecked. I pushed myself even harder, my hands brushing against grimy walls, feeling the vibrations bounce off my skin. A reminder that this once proud edifice was slowly eroding under reality's corrosive grip. As we rounded the next corner, I spotted the entrance to a forgotten archive. A door I had never seen before, hidden behind a tangle of forgotten crates, probably remnants from another era. That door was my invitation to revelation, the answer to every question echoing in my mind, what the council kept hidden and whether I could ever trust anyone else's ambition. This was not a faith in the leadership type of quest, but rather an act of vengeance, an ignition against the fire that had burned my family's legacy into ash. I plunged forward, forcing the door open, and immediately the air shifted heavy and stale. The glow of the console flickered for sustenance, but provided far more illumination than I bargained for. Shelves lined the walls, rising to an unseen ceiling, packed with plasteel cubes filled with classified information. This room had the potential to be our salvation, or our doom. On the far wall, I spied a terminal blinking uncertainly, a calling card. "What, Rhea, wait." Nilo's hand shot out, grabbing my arm as I approached the machine. "It could be a trap. The council thinks we're just kids," I snapped. "They'd never think we'd have the guts to dig here." I wasn't entirely convinced, even while I spoke. My gut churned as I laid my fingers on the terminal's familiar surface. "Come on. Just keep watch." "Fine, but I swear to the excesses of the cosmos." I tuned him out. eyes darting across the screen until I located a year's worth of security logs. I skimmed the data, adrenaline pumping in my veins as revelations fell into place. There were records of arrests for dissenting behavior, scenes of groups disappearing overnight, and updates on the Nexus project, files endless strings of code that hinted at something sinister at work. But one entry stood out like a beacon in the gloom. Asterisk subject Rhea Sorens, classified as high-risk profile. Asterisk, the words crashed over me like a tidal wave, the chill of betrayal stinging at my consciousness. Did they know? Had my name somehow become synonymous with rebellion? Questions stormed through my mind like specters seeking answers. Who had betrayed me? Who had been watching me all this time? Rhea, please. Nilo's voice pulled me back from the precipice of panic. We need to go. We can't risk exposure. But I couldn't pull myself away. I had uncovered something bigger than I had ever anticipated. A ghost of truth swirling in the secrets hidden in that room. About my family, my future, and the leaders I had once trusted. Suddenly, an alarm shattered the silence, a wailing siren blaring through the air as blinding red lights filled the cramped space. In that moment, the weight of my choices sank in, suffocating me. I had uncovered the darkness the leaders who were never meant to rule had kept hidden. A darkness that now clawed at my heels. Nilo, we have to go, now. I shouted, heart racing as I turned on my heel, thrusting the data cube firmly into my pocket. Do you have it? He was already sprinting toward the door, urgency driving every fiber of his being. Yeah, let's just move. The walls felt like they were closing in, the echoes of our resolves ripping into the silence. With one final glance back at the secrets still buried in the shadows, I chased after him, knowing that we were only at the beginning of a fight that would force us to confront not only the Council, but everything we thought we knew about our world. In the game of rulers and pawns, the truth lay buried beneath layers of betrayal, and we were about to unearth the very foundations upon which our society stood. The corridor outside the archive was flooded with crimson light, the sirens' blare turning our hurried footsteps into an alarming tempo that reverberated through my body. Nilo barely glanced back, urgency painted in his every movement as I trailed closely behind him. Adrenaline coursed through us, fueling the instinctual need to flee. This way, he led me toward a service shaft hidden behind a maintenance panel, and I squeezed through the narrow opening behind him, the confines of the shaft pressing against my skin like the whisper of a tightening noose. Clanking of machinery surrounded us as we descended a set of rickety maintenance ladders, dropping deeper into the heart of the arcology. Once we reached the bottom and found solid ground, we paused to catch our breath in a dimly lit chamber, the air thick with the scent of oil and antiquity. We need a plan, I gasped, leaning against the cool steel wall, feeling both exhilarated and terrified. Whatever we pulled from there is worth more than they'll admit. Now they'll be hunting for us. We can't just run around blindly. Nilo's dark hair fell into his eyes as he looked up. We have to lose them first, then we figure out what to do with the data. Their scanners will zero in on the terminal. They already know it was breached. Mal, Rai, his voice faltered as a cloud of frustration hung in the air between us, thick and suffocating. I didn't want you to get involved with this. I asked you to back off. His words stung sharper than I expected, hitting home, both a reminder of our previous arguments and the gravity of this moment. But you can't believe I would just sit back and watch our society fall further into the Council's grasp. They've already branded me as a risk. I shot back, my tone biting. And you can't pretend that their control isn't as corrosive as it feels. Nilo clenched his fists, the easy banter and playful camaraderie of our childhood hitting a dead end. Do not you get it? It's not just you and me anymore. We're not kids sneaking out to play. We're in the middle of something dangerous. Before I could respond, a loud clang echoed from above, sending a shiver of fear down my spine. The Council's enforcers were closing in. Come on, I urged, pinching my brow, trying to remember the city layout. We have to find a way to the maintenance tunnels, stick together. "Don't split up," Nilo shouted, pointing toward a grimy vent. "We can use that." We scrambled toward the vent, shoving aside decades, old drapes of dust. The tunnel inside was cramped, dark, and pungent, but it veered away from the location of our explosion of chaos. Nilo crawled ahead, his back visible as he maneuvered through the passage. I crawled close behind, the tension thick enough to slice with a knife. "Rhea," he said suddenly, his voice distant, muffled by the metallic walls around us. "Do you think Thren comes into this? I know he hates the Council too. If anyone would be on our side." Thren DeLaver was an old friend of ours, the son of a disgraced scientist who had once worked closely with the Council, but had been silenced when he began to question their methods. He had a reputation for being rebellious, the troublemaker we always admired, but he had also become a figure marked by paranoia. No, I shook my head, irritation simmering beneath the surface. Thren can't be trusted. He'll disclose everything to save himself. I can't risk it. Nilo turned back toward me, the struggle in his eyes evident. "Rhea, you're stubborn like your family. You need allies on this one, especially if we're poking into secrets like Nexus." Poking. Such a casual word for the storm we had just unleashed. "Well, what do you expect me to do? Throw myself into the fire without understanding how deep it burns? Then tell me what to do?" He paused his crawl and turned fully to address me, irritation morphing into desperation. "I'll follow your lead, Rhea, always have, but I can't lose you in this fight. Just don't shut me out." I could feel the current shifting between us, but before I had a chance to respond, a loud bang shattered the air. The vent shuddered as heavy footsteps reverberated outside, echoing like a countdown toward our impending capture. "We have to keep moving." Now, as we crawled forward, my mind rattled with thoughts. What if our plan hinged on bringing Thren in? We needed someone versed in the Council's machinations. Someone who could dig out the bricks of lore hiding beneath the stonework. We finally burst into a larger ventilation room with an array of pipes visible overhead, and my heart sank at the sight. This was a forgotten maintenance area, a hub for the city's power core. We descended onto the misaligned grids, fleeting whispers of chatter discontinuing my thoughts. "Do you hear that?" I asked. "Yeah," Nilo replied, listening intently while moving to the narrow opening at the end of the main room. What emerged was an array of monitors blinking with readings and graphs that rearranged the very narrative of our understanding, measuring power flow and energy dispersion across the arcology. A quiet hum reverberated in the background, the machine still breathing. This was where everything pulsed together, but it looked different. A pathway tethered beneath the core drew my gaze, a forbidden tunnel that glowed faintly in silvery, blue light. "I need to check this out. Stay here." I didn't wait for his response. I couldn't. My gut was pulling me forward, as if somehow knowing that there lay the first thread in unraveling the dark tapestry before us. "Rhea, wait." Nilo darted after me, yet I pushed through the doorway of the power access tunnel that led deeper into the guts of the arcology. Inside the hollow space, every step echoed into the unknown. The air felt electric, vibrant, as if the environment was alive. Glancing up, the canvas above me formed a map of glowing lines. The city's energy sources morphing like living veins. Perhaps Nexus existed as more than a mere faceless conspiracy. Perhaps it was the lifeblood of the arcology, giving reason behind the Council's iron grip. I could feel eyes on me. Emerging through the other side of the tunnel, I stumbled into a vast chamber, illuminated by the ethereal glow of holographic displays projecting all around. An entire array of information swirled in mesmerizing patterns, and in the center stood a figure cloaked in shadows. "Welcome, Rhea Sorens." The rich timbre of a voice floated through the air as a figure stepped into view, an amalgamation of familiar features gleaming with determination. "I've been waiting for you, and you too, Nilo." Convenient to have both the fire and the spark, don't you think? It was Thren, unmistakable even under the guise of darkness. The almost palpable shroud of tension crackled at the edges. "What are you doing here?" I asked, straining to ignore the gut instinct reminding me of distrust. "I could ask you the same," He took a step forward, eyes shifting between me and Nilo, like calculating an equation. You've been poking around where there are too many shadows. Nevertheless, your timing is surprisingly fortuitous. You might even be the key to what's next. Next, Nilo interjected, skepticism layered with curiosity. You're the last thing we need right now, Thren. But Thren held up his hands, a playful smirk dancing across his lips. You're both in deeper than you realize. Did you know Nexus is expanding? They've been using the very engine you stand before to optimize the Council's control over the arcology. Data streams we can tap, voltage levels keeping them alive, and a hidden circuit they want to remain unknown, one that connects directly to the Council's secret database. You want to expose them. This is where we start. What do you want? I challenged, back straightening. You've always had your agenda. Why should we trust you now? Every fiber of my being screamed to be cautious. Because, Thren's voice darkened, sincerity bleeding through the bravado, I can help you. I've seen what the Council is capable of, what they did to my father. I know the stakes, and neither of you needs to carry this burden alone. As we stood in that chamber, the weight of this world weighed heavier than the abandoned machines surrounding us. The intricate minutiae woven between our fates pulsed like a heartbeat, merging desire, treachery, and unexpected connections. But as the distant hum of machinery enveloped us, warning bells rang in unison with my gut instincts. This was just the beginning of unraveling the web of deception that had trapped us all. Fine, I said, steeling myself against the vulnerabilities threatening to unravel my resolve. But there's no room for betrayal this time, Thren. If you deceive us, I will not hesitate to end this once and for all. You understand, right? Absolutely. He spread his arms wide, stepping back for emphasis. There's been enough betrayal already. Nilo glanced at me, grim determination lacing his expression. I nodded, and the tenuous alliance formed in darkened holes began to strengthen. The arcology hummed with life around us, a realm of dire secrets waiting to be exposed. Each step forward hinted at new displays of loyalty and anguish to be resolved. We were just beginning to grasp the nature of our world's chaotic dance. Outside of us, tensions brewed like shadows tumbling against light, and in that moment I understood. No matter the journey ahead, we were not alone in our mutual fight against the binds of control. Onward, I resolved, onward into the labyrinthine darkness together. The air buzzed with a palpable tension as Thren led us deeper into the heart of the arcology. The machinery around us thrummed like a heartbeat, and I could feel my heart sinking with the rhythmic pulse of the walls. I fought to stifle the unease slithering up my spine, for it was clear that beneath the flickering light and promises of rebellion, shadows lurked. Follow me, Thren commanded, his voice low and urgent. We wove through a series of interconnected corridors, the dim illumination casting long shadows that danced around us. He'd managed to unlock a maintenance hatch hidden among walls of damp concrete. I could not ignore the nagging sensation that something greater than us was at play. As we turned another corner, a vast chamber loomed ahead, filled with towering conduits and stray cables snaking across the floor. The room hummed with electrical energy, illuminating a series of workstations cluttered with monitors, tangled within a web of data streams verifying their sanctum. Each screen displayed real-time communications between council members, coded dialogue that obliterated any veil of secrecy remaining. Nexus is not simply a project, Thren explained, eyes gleaming with fervor. It's a comprehensive control system, a neural network connecting every DNA identified within the arcology. They've been harvesting data for years. Nilo interjected, a hint of skepticism clinging to his tone. You mean they're tracking us, even all the way down to our thoughts? No. Thren chuckled, but I could hear the trepidation behind it. It's more nuanced than that. They've created a system that learns from the behavior, adjusting their approach to govern, assimilate, and suppress. The project involves our people, but it's layered within algorithmic outputs that dictate everything. My thoughts churned as his words traced the edges of reality. While I clung to Nilo's wrist for reassurance, I glimpsed a chilling tableau. flames lapping at the edges of hidden truth, igniting a rebel spirit buried deep within my family's legacy. But why? I asked, seeking clarity in a storm of confusion. What do they gain from all of this? They need us to conform, Thren answered, stepping closer to a console. With a few keystrokes, he summoned streams of information swirling across the monitors, exposing a grossly disproportionate network, bodies merged into machinery, people cloaked in digital chains while wearing masks of loyalty. We were deliberate creatures caught in a vicious cycle of control. Tension rippled through the air. Is it possible that the Council is aware of our presence? I whispered, shaking off the cold cascade pooling in my gut. We had ventured into the lion's den, driven by our adrenaline-fueled quest for truth. What would they do if they found us here? At the very core of their manipulation, Nilo looked at me, his eyes widening at the implications. Are you suggesting that we've walked right into a trap? Thren halted, brow furrowing in contemplation. They may have suspected something, sure, but they won't act against you yet, not while they feel in control. But if they discover you're willing to challenge their authority, everything changes. Before I could respond, an electronic alarm began to wail, a shrill, incessant warning that reverberated through the chamber. The screens flickered to life, static bursting forth, and amid the chaos, illuminated faces materialized council members, clothed in authority and contempt. Who's monitoring us? One of them barked through the static, their eyes narrowing with fury. The system had just turned against us. Find Rhea and Nilo. They are the catalysts of this revolt. Keep your voices down, Thren hissed, fingers flying across the keyboard, desperately attempting to sever the connection. They've definitely traced us. Then everything fell silent, the sound of my own breathing pounding in my ears. Nilo grabbed my arm instinctively as the air thickened around us, choking me with urgency. What do we do now? Let me handle this, Thren murmured, perspiration glistening on his forehead as he turned back to the console. With each keystroke, he summoned layers of subroutines and hidden interfaces, deftly diverting resources while his forceful energy surged, a dash against the unpredictable tides of the Council's scrutiny. If we can conceal our presence long enough to retrieve the data, we might emerge unscathed. We must expose them. I nodded at Nilo, who tightened his grip around my hand, our eyes meeting in mutual understanding. We had come too far to let fear dictate our actions. The monitors glowed ominously, revealing a series of encrypted files flagged with ominous red lettering. My resolve began to solidify into purpose. While we delved into the shadows, perhaps we could uncover something that served beyond mere defiance. Perhaps we could seize the spark to ignite the kindling that might awaken the rest of the arcology from its deep slumber of apathy. The file labeled *Nexus Alpha*, I said sharply, that may provide insight into their most significant operations. Thren's fingers flew across the interface, unearthing the classified data. As his intensity grew, static crackled in response to the chaos overhead. We have mere minutes before they'll tighten their grip on this chamber. If I can crack this, we'll obtain everything we need for our fight, everything the citizens deserve to know. And it was in that moment, amid the escalating tension, that a dark truth pierced through the air. Conceal your truth, or embrace brilliance, forge your path with your secret no matter the consequence. But dare to unearth humanity beneath the cold surface of machinery. Rhea. Nilo's voice cut through my thoughts like a blade. I can hear footsteps approaching. We have to back away from the console, hide on the other side. Instinct kicked in. We darted behind a machine just as masked figures flooded into the pod. The Council's enforcers moved purposefully, scanning the room as they spread out to cover every inch in their hunt. Voices floated through the air, heavy with tension. Secure the mainframe. They've compromised our momentum. A figure shouted in defiance, and I could see their coat glint beneath the fluorescent lights Council branded, ruthless like shadows unyielding. My heart raced as the way of exposure narrowed. Thren continued typing furiously. the rhythmic clacking of his fingers melding with the officers' voices drowning in the chaotic atmosphere. Every second felt like an eternity, and I could feel the tension winding around us, threatening to choke us if we didn't hatch a plan. "I can't risk them discovering me," Ithren grunted between clenched teeth, sweat dripping down his temples. "Give me just a moment, we have to break through." "Break through," Nilo whispered, tense and barely holding his breath. "Like because you broke the rules, how are we going to escape this now? Don't question me, just trust me," Ithren snapped, and it was in that fleeting flash of anger that I saw a reflection of desperation. "I won't let us get caught. Just hold yourself." A line of darkness began to swallow me whole as an officer stepped closer. Barely breathing, I held Nilo's gaze, feeling the weight of expectation course between us. We were no longer simply friends forced to navigate chaos. We were comrades in this rebellion, facing an enemy forged in cold control. "I can't just wait here," I replied, syllables coated in grit. The reality of our choices unfolded before me, and with each breath, I resolved to shatter that dark mantle suffocating our people. "I'll draw their attention away. Keep working." Nilo's eyes widened, but I silenced him with a firm nod. This was our moment. A step into the unknown. "Find an escape route through the maintenance airway," I instructed, inhaling deeply as I steeled myself. "Get the information we need and don't look back. Not until we emerge from these shadows." "Rhea, no," he hissed, but rebellion effectively superseded my guilt as I crept from my hiding place, lingering just out of their line of sight. "Hey," I shouted, seeking a diversion. "Over here. You think you can silence me, Council?" The officers snapped their heads in my direction, momentarily bewildered by my audacity. I could taste fear and resolve on my tongue merging, igniting my spirit. "You've buried the voices of the arcology for too long. Stop her," one of the officers barked, and I could see their expression shift from confusion to furious authority as the realization sank in. But it was too late. I darted through the chaos, rushing toward the nearest exit. My ears rang with urgency as Nilo's voice flickered through the air like a lifeline. "Rhea, come back." But courage surged in my veins, serving the fleeting whispers in my heart that told me we were on the brink of an irrevocable shift. **, no longer merely cogs in the machine. We were awakening something that lay beneath the shadows of governance, control, and blood debts. **, dark figures pursued me through the complex machinery. I could feel their fervor, but more so, I felt their desperation. The very fabric of who I was began to unravel before their pursuit. As I dashed through twisted corridors, thoughts of Nilo's safety pushed me forward. I needed to make it back to him. I pressed against cold walls, an echo of rebellion coursing around me, and I spun to confront those who chased me, unleashing raw energy against their determined essence. But this wasn't about betrayal nor personal glory. It went beyond defeating those who had wronged me and finally stemmed into something deeper. It is about resurrecting the very bond we shared with those waiting for change. With each stride, I blinked away the panic, welcoming the chaotic rush of revolution against repressive chains. And amid the fray, amidst projections and shadows that could strip a voice, I knew this much. I was never alone. With each move I made, Nilo and I, now linked by a splendid shared purpose, sought to reclaim the spirit behind every revelation. Driven by a rush of adrenaline, I made the decision. I would not only fight for me or for our story, but for every potential person lost beneath the Council's claws. I was stepping forward to galvanize the disjointed cries for help, to resonate with a chorus veiled beneath the machinery of chaos, and I could feel it in every breath I took. The arcology would no longer be shackled by shadows. It was time for rebellion, and I would not falter. Finally, I spotted a small side exit, with machinery whirring in unforgiving, erratic beats. My chest heaved as I dashed through it, wrenching the steel door open, diving into the world where I had one chance for change. A chance to expose Nexus and the Council's control. In a world swirling on the brink, every choice would ignite consequences, every ally engaging in the dance of risking loyalty. We were no longer fragments of rebellion, we were its embodiment, and together we'd carve our legacy into an undying flame against the encroaching darkness. As the echo of my footsteps dwindled away, I vowed that even against the chaos, particularly in the heart of shadows, I would emerge as Rhea Sorens, a name reborn in the flickering lights of revolution. The heart of the arcology was alive, pulsing, and I would do all that was necessary. The Council could not strip away every truth we held deep. Now unleashed, our collective power surged forth, charting a path toward destiny. The air felt electric as I burst into the open expanse of the underground maintenance yard, a stark contrast to the darkness that loomed within the arcology. My heart raced, echoing the rhythm of my footsteps against the cracked concrete floor. Shadows danced in the corners, flickering as ancient lights buzzed overhead, illuminating the remnants of machinery long forgotten. Rhea, Nilo's voice, strained and urgent, broke through the haze of adrenaline. He emerged from a cluster of crates, breathless, but his eyes were lit with a mixture of worry and determination. "You made it," I thought. "Focus," I interrupted, scanning our surroundings. The weight of time pressed down on us, making each second feel like an eternity. "Did you find the access point?" He nodded, motioning toward a rusty service door in the far wall marked with a reminder of what lay beyond. "Danger. Authorized personnel only. This leads to the other sections of the arcology, where they house their operations and control systems. We need to be quick and silent." I pressed myself against the door, the cold metal a stark reminder of the stakes we had risen toward. "Did Thren get the data?" I asked, feeling the knot in my stomach twist tighter. He had to have something. He did. And Nilo's face darkened, reflecting the weight of information that could unravel our world. If he can reach the mainframe without being detected, we might have a chance to disrupt their systems completely. But we've got to back him up. We can't let the Council get their hands on him, or worse, find out what we've already discovered. The inevitability of our choices settled on my shoulders as I took a deep breath, steeling my resolve. "Then that's our mission. Let's not waste time." We slipped through the door, hearts pounding as we entered the labyrinthine corridors beyond. The atmosphere shifted, acquiring the sterile, clinical air characteristic of higher security zones, the kind where eyes were always watching, tracking our movements. Efforts to remain quiet felt futile, every sound magnified. A whisper hidden behind our breath, a shuffle that slipped out as we emanated an energy that could be sensed in the vibrations of the hallway. The architecture here was harsh and angular, devoid of the warmth the living spaces of the arcology held. An omnipresent awareness crept in, a feeling as if countless unseen watchers were peering at us through the walls. "We're close." I gestured as we approached a large reinforced door labeled ***, Nexus Control Core ***. It was an imposing sight, with tightened mechanisms and heavy locks. The sound of footsteps echoed around the intersection we had just crossed, punctuating the urgency of our mission. Tension vibrated in the air as we crouched low, waiting. "Do you think Thren made it?" Nilo's voice trembled with uncertainty. "What if he's been caught?" "He's underestimated," I replied, the certainty in my tone masking the fear lying deeper. "He knows the ins and outs better than most, and this is our best shot at finding the truth." Just as I finished speaking, a faint commotion echoed from behind the door, raising the hairs on the back of my neck. I glanced at Nilo, who silently nodded, adrenaline coursing through us like wildfire. "On 3, I muttered, positioning myself just outside the door's threshold. 1, 2, 3. We burst through the door, weapons drawn. If there had been any guards, we would have caught them in a moment of disarray. Instead, the dimly lit room beyond greeted us, with Thren glued to multiple console screens, fingers flying over the panels as holographic projections flickered around him. A web of information threaded through the air like a vibrant tapestry. He turned at the sound of our entry, eyes wide in surprise before shifting to determination. "You actually made it," he exclaimed, but the relief was short-lived as he glimpsed the control monitors surrounding him. "Show us what you've found," I demanded, scanning for any signs of incoming guards. Hang tight. If I can stabilize the data logs for just a moment. Thren's focus returned to the screens, tweaking settings and pulling layers of information out from the chaos that flooded around us. The screens projected a flow of encrypted communications, labyrinthine lines of code that revealed the sinister underbelly of the Council's operational infrastructure. Everything hinges on Nexus, Thren explained. It's not merely about surveillance, Rhea. It's far worse. They're weaponizing control. How? Nilo's voice wavered. The raw implications gripped him as they gripped me. Through a combination of genetic data and psychological manipulation. They've built a system that can predict behavior patterns, even outcomes. If they wanted to, Thren hesitated. They could eradicate dissent before it ever emerged. Why would they do that? I asked incredulously, but as the pieces fell together in my mind, they created a more chilling image. It's a way to eliminate opposition before it even stands a chance. Yes, Thren nodded, eyes blazing with urgency. Instead of just suppressing us, they intend to sculpt us into what they want, a population that is entirely compliant. The gravity of our findings settled heavily on my shoulders. Asterisk asterisk, this was not just a fight for survival asterisk asterisk. It was a battle for identity, for freedom against a wall crushing beneath its own weight. The world beyond Nexus was unrecognizable in its grasp, mapping futures devoid of choice. Rhea. Nilo's voice broke through my thoughts. Time is slipping. If they know we're here, the security measures will have sealed any escape route, Thren warned. We need to retrieve the core data and find a way out. Can you disable the alarms? I asked hurriedly, my eyes tracing the colorful streams of data across the monitors. We can't let them know. I can, but it'll take a moment. Thren's fingers danced with urgency, searching for solutions among a flood of cascading code. The room hummed menacingly, and electricity crackling above us as he navigated the complexities. Just as I was about to insist we hurry, the door slammed open behind us. Council enforcers flooded in, their disciplined movements turning the chaotic energy of the computer lab to stagnation. Rhea, Nilo, Thren called, voice cresting in anxiety. The sight of the guards, clad in ominous black and merciless expressions, jolted me from my hesitance. Don't let them take the data. Swiftly, I turned toward a nearby console, fingers flying over the interface as energy surged in response to a call for combat rather than retreat. I was looking for anything, something that would give us a shred of advantage. As alarms blared relentlessly, Nilo and I moved, adrenaline ushering us into action as I hit the first command I could process. Locking the door. The clang of metal reverberated through my bones, and for a fleeting moment, I believed I might actually have gained control. But as the council broke through the heavy frame with a single sharp force, the facade shattered. A tall figure with a face shadowed by rigid lines and accented with a dismissive smirk emerged from the horde, the kind of officer who radiated authority and fear. No more games, Sorens, the council agent snarled, eyes pinning me in place. You're outnumbered. Surrender. I stood frozen, a whirlwind of emotions collapsing into my chest, and with just a moment's hesitation, I sensed Nilo flinch behind me. They were taking their time, their confidence blooming as they gathered. We were trapped. Rhea, Thren shouted as he worked feverishly, but his swipes across the screen suddenly halted the holograms lighting our path. I can't override without the main data node. We need to clear them out. Before my consciousness could catch up, a surge of anger boiled beneath the surface. Asterisk asterisk, these people dared to infringe on our very existence. They had carved a future crafted with treachery and manipulation, yet they would continue unfettered. Asterisk asterisk, you think we'll just surrender to your whims? I challenged, mustering courage into my words, suffusing the room with lingering, electrified hope, even as the odds felt insurmountable. You don't have the power you believe you hold. We're fighting back. And with that burst of resolve, everything shifted. It wasn't just about Nilo, Thren, and me. It was a collision of wills against entrenched beliefs that birthed oppression. Nilo lunged alongside me, and the urgency of our decision propelled us forward. Whatever Thren is working on, click into the mainframe. We need access now. As my feet darted across the room, I took control of the corner console, desperation igniting in a rush of action. I pressed a sequence: open, subcores, unlock. The stream of information surged under my fingertips, and for a moment the world disappeared. The very nature of reality bent before me as I injected the truth into the arcology's veins. Alarms reached a deafening crescendo, lights dancing chaotically within the control room as Thren's fingers flew over his terminal with the corridor painted red in dizzying glamour. Almost there, he shouted, eyes wide with anticipation. And then it happened. Information began to cascade in wild patterns across the screens, iridescent halos of truth igniting arcs of connections. The Council's scheming was exposed, the webs they had woven for eons suddenly laid bare. I charged my internal flame with a surge of energy as I watched the chaos unravel before his hands. Get the flash drive, I shouted to Nilo as the Council members rushed towards us. With a swift kick, he knocked a guard off balance, stumbling into another, chaos erupting with a sudden spark of fervor. And it was in that swirling chaos, the Enforcer's eyes narrowing, shots ringing out. I pressed down harder, plucking on the heartstrings of a rebellion born anew. I grasped the data like a beacon within the tempest, directly within the Council's control. That's it. Rhea, I've got it. Now, we need to move, Thren shouted. Without thinking, I yanked Nilo's wrist, pulling him toward the back exit. Go, go, we yelled, pushing past one of the guards who had stumbled during the skirmish. We burst through the door into the labyrinth of the dark underbelly of the arcology. Their sounds faded into an echo behind us. Every instinct screamed for escape, fueled by the unyielding fire within my chest. The corridor twisted in a harsh bend, darkness closing in around us. Yet the whispers of hope we carved echoed louder. We were not simply fleeing. We were birthing an insurgency from the very heart of oppression. Rhea, I saw what you did back there. Are we really about to break their hold over this place? Nilo said, his voice a mixture of awe and disbelief. Yes, I affirmed, breathless but resolute, pushing onward. For everyone they've silenced to turn this tide. They can't keep our futures trapped in shadows. Thren joined our stride, determination etched across his face. We have to get this data to the broadcast center. We need to expose the reality of the Council's control and transfer the information before they can recover. Right? Nilo nodded, urgency coursing through his veins. Then we'll bring allies into the fold. Outside, the maze led us toward the corridors where flickering lights lit the path. But we had to tread carefully. Council enforcers scoured the arcology. But as we moved deeper into the Foundation, we knew we were edging closer to a hidden net of potential. We mustered every ounce of our energy, navigating the dimly lit trails as they branched into silhouettes cloaked in dark corners. Nilo held my gaze, the unbreakable bond of our unity tethering us as we slipped through the crumbling seams of this world. Do you hear that? Thren suddenly asked. A low hum reverberated through the echoes around us, and for a moment our steps stilled as we sought the source. Flickers of light danced as the shadows deepened, and then a door emerged from the wall. A safety hatch, marked by flickering, minimalistic graphics. With bated breath, I pressed against the door's frame, and as it opened with a soft hiss, the sense of oppression drew back just for a moment, granting an unexpected glimpse of the vastness beyond. The city beckoned before us, skin of skyline stretched against dawn, the hope of rebellion awakening like the sun breaking free from the horizon. Now, I shouted, lungs full of resolve as we surged through. Outside the hidden path, we stood on the precipice of change, gazing at the skyline. An ethereal blend of humanity intertwined with machinery. The mirrors reflecting our fight against the unseen chains that had bound our existence. It no longer mattered that fear lingered, nor that the Council's enforcers sought to recapture us. We were now conduits of truth, the living spark against the fabric of oppression. As the weight of dawn illuminated the city, I absorbed the burning promise that we would no longer retreat into shadows. Let's show them what we've uncovered, I said, resolute and fierce. Together, we reclaim our lives. Nilo and Thren exchanged a glance, understanding flashing between them, a silent pledge that coursed through us all. Today, we draw a line beneath the shadows of control and tread onward, clashing with the Council and fortifying the chorus for liberty. This was a battle written beneath the surface, and we would stand encased in truth, undeniable, unyielding, and unstoppable. The new dawn was upon us, flame and fervor reignited from deep within. United, we would blaze our trail, not merely as rebels, but as architects of genuine revolution. In this grand game of power, we were no longer onlookers. We were the pulse, the heartbeat of change that would sweep the arcology away from the agony of silence and speak volumes for many reverberating voices hidden in its depths. Together, we were a force ready to unravel the darkness swirling around our city and our destinies. And as we stepped into that burgeoning dawn, we prepared to reveal the truth. As the morning sun cast its golden rays across the sprawling expanse of the arcology, a new chapter unfurled before us. We stood together on a rooftop high above the city's depths, Nilo, Thren, and I gazing out at the shifting landscape below. The vibrant skyline, awash in hues of dawn, felt like a canvas upon which our shared destiny could be painted, laden with the potential for change. "We'll need to reach the broadcast center before they seal the channels," Nilo said, his voice steady with purpose. "Once we release the data, there will be no going back. We can't allow them to suppress it. We must mobilize the citizens, I know." "But it won't be easy," Thren replied, scanning the horizon. "The Council will be on high alert. They'll scramble their forces as soon as they realize we've escaped with the Nexus data." He pulled the flash drive from his pocket, a small piece of technology bursting with the might of revelation. "This is our key to unlocking the truth." A chill gripped my heart at the thought of what lay ahead. Facing the Council wouldn't be merely a confrontation. It was a reckoning. I thought back to the families who had lost loved ones to the Council's machinations, the whispers of dissent silenced before they could ignite into flames. We were about to expose the lies they had woven to maintain control, and I felt the weight of responsibility settle squarely on my shoulders. "Then let's get moving." My voice carried an edge of urgency, overriding the uncertainties creeping back in. I reached for both my companions. Together, we can do this. The streets below were alive with energy, the city beginning to stir as the sun crested the horizon. Yet beneath the surface, I sensed an undercurrent of frustration and fear among the citizens. The remnants of control gripped tightly over their shoulders like a weight that refused to lift. We were the catalysts, the sparks that could ignite the fires of rebellion dormant in their hearts. All we needed was momentum and the first act of defiance that would set the world ablaze. We set off, weaving through the narrow alleys and forgotten backstreets. As we navigated the city's underbelly, we passed clusters of citizens whose eyes were downcast, faces etched with worry. It was a sobering reminder of what we fought for, their hope that had been wrought from pain and loss. "Rhea, Thren, look over there," Nilo called, pointing toward a large gathering of citizens at a plaza nearby, faces vibrant with anticipation. A group of activists had laid down banners and messages of discontent, raising voices against Council's oppressive reign. "This could work in our favor," I said. "Let's rally them. If we explain what we've found, we can build momentum." Thren nodded, the fire of conviction blazing in his eyes. "We'll need to make this announcement count. The moment we allow the citizens to question the Council, we'll awaken their voices." We broke into a sprint toward the gathering, hearts pumping in unison as we entered the plaza. The atmosphere felt electric, passion simmering just beneath the surface, ignited by our presence as whispers turned to looks of curiosity. "People," I shouted, raising my hands to capture their attention. "Can you hear me?" A silence fell as citizens turned to us, a mixture of surprise and hope etched across their faces. "My name is Rhea Sorens, and I stand before you not just as an individual, but as a voice for our collective cry for freedom. Today, we have the truth. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, uncertainty competing with curiosity as I continued. The council has crucified our spirit with lies, manipulated our perceptions for their gain. But no longer. We hold evidence truth hidden beneath their shrouded grasp. Through the power of unity, we shall expose their darkness and force their hands into the light. The Nexus, Enilo added, stepping forward to echo my fervent rallying cry as the crowd began to react with tentative excitement. They use it to control us, to track our movements and thoughts. What's to stop them from erasing us entirely? We must not be silent. The energy intensified in the plaza. In that moment, the citizens stirred, recognition dawning with each uttered truth that was woven into our passionate declarations. A shared fire flickered among them, a bond of struggle waiting to be ignited. Thren raised the flash drive triumphantly. This device carries the Council's secrets, their plans to suppress our voices, to mold us into obedient citizens. Together, we can reclaim what is rightfully ours. We will forge the path forward, starting now. The crowd roared in response, their excitement shifting from a hesitant murmur to thunderous applause. Hands began to raise in solidarity, voices unified against the oppressive tide. We stand for Rhea, 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 they chanted as the flames of rebellion surged like wildfire. As we locked eyes with one another, I saw the widening world ahead of us reflected within that unity. We had become the crisp, beating pulse of change resonating through this twisted city. We could make history, not just for ourselves, but for the countless souls still shackled beneath the weight of tyranny. And now, I shouted above the roar, heart racing. Let us move before they can fortify themselves. We'll head to the broadcast center. It's not far from here. Those who wish to rise follow us. And just as we prepared to leave, I spotted a familiar face in the crowd. A mother holding a child, both gazing upon the spectacle with eyes wide in wonder. My heart swelled at the sight, recognizing the gravity of our fight. It was for them, for the future we could mold as a community. We couldn't afford to falter. With our spirits ignited by hope, we surged forward from the plaza. Side by side, we led the charge through the labyrinthine streets of the arcology. A throng of citizens and allies racing behind us, the pulse of unity driving us onward. The horizon lay before us, fraught with uncertainty, but now imbued with the promise of liberation. Asterisk, 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 the broadcast center rose before us, a stark edifice looming against the sky, a monument to control crafted by the Council, but today, repurposed as our stage for truth. We pressed forward, adrenaline coursing through our veins as we reached the towering structure. Armed with the fervor of our compatriots, we rushed toward the entrance, a behemoth door looming between us and the moment of reckoning. Stick together, Enilo urged, eyes scanning for enforcers. We need to breach quickly and disable any alarms. I've got the controls, Thren replied, pointing to a set of screens just visible through the entrance. Once inside, I'll work on bypassing their security measures. We'll only have moments. As I pushed open the door, a sense of urgency enveloped us like a storm, and we flooded into the lobby, filled with sleek glass and steel that reflected the energy swirling through our core. We could feel it, a breeze alive with hope brushing against our skin. But as Thren sprinted toward the control decks, I caught sight of guards stationed at the far end of the room, Council enforcers ready for action, towering figures with grim determination. Push through, I commanded, voice steadying as we ran into the fray. Chaos erupted as our group surged forward. Guards scrambled, but no longer did fear bind our movements. We were embers against the winds of tyranny. As Nilo flanked Thren while he hacked into the central system from the chaos, I moved with motion, confronting the enforcer's head, on, feeling for the connected pulse of the city we were intent to liberate. I won't let you silence us, I yelled, bodies colliding like the shattering of glass, while citizens far outnumbered those who had been trained to suppress them. Thren's fingers danced across the keypads as he connected the flash drive. The monitors flickered to life, lighting up the lobby with readings of data systems and algorithms that laid bare the Council's twisted grasp. Almost there. Just a moment longer. Enilo, I called, urgency lighten every syllable. We need to hold them back. Don't let them overrun us. We won't, he replied with fierce determination, deflecting against another guard advancing toward the control room. Together, as if conjured by sheer will, a surge of camaraderie and strength joined us, the citizens. The rebels all together, a family forged in adversity. Surrender now, one of the enforcers shouted, voice laced with authority. Your revolution ends here, but in our desperation, we remembered the truth long hidden beneath the Council's masquerade. We were not here to kneel, we were here to rise, ready to paint the city anew. And now, I shouted, heart racing. The monitors stuttered and absolved beneath Thren's keystrokes, and then a stillness enveloped the room, a haunting moment hanging in anticipation. Everyone, hear me, Thren shouted, voice booming over the chaos as he activated the transmit function. Let the truth be heard. A wave of static engulfed us before the footage filled the screens. A torrent of data spiraled through the room, revealing the Council's detailed machinations, their strategies to control and suppress the very heart of the arcology. We know the truth, Enilo echoed, prompting the citizens to rise with conviction. Look at what they've become. Our voices will no longer be contained. And then, as the truth echoed against every wall, a discordant clang resonated through the air, a sound of power, of rebellion. The world flared to life around us, the swirling sparks of essence igniting an irrepressible fire within. Together we had cracked the shell of tyranny, each voice, each heartbeat ignited with righteous fury. We could feel it as the connection rippled throughout the city. We were not just individuals fighting for freedom anymore. We were a movement, a chorus united by everything we'd become, everything we'd endured. Just then, an unyielding explosion erupted outside the building. It was the beginning of the end. Our people rallied in a united front against the Council's grasp. The truth unleashed, the hatred revealed, a revolution punctuated with resilience. Stand strong, I shouted, my heart stoking the flames of determination amid the chaos. Together, we rise. The electrifying wave of rebellion crisscrossed through the city. Hope spread among mannered hearts united against oppression. As our voices blended together and surged through the heart of the arcology, we forged our path cherry, picking the shackles holding our spirit captive. And in that moment, as the truth echoed in every corner, we emerged from the shadows forged into champions of freedom. The dawn of revolution flickering to life within the heart of the arcology once more. This was our legacy, our unyielding spirit. They had underestimated us. But now we would rise against the storm, weaving a new future into the fabric of our world. From the ashes of despair, we would become the architects of our destiny, molded by our truth. Perhaps amid the chaos, light could still break through. Perhaps this was the dawn we had long awaited, ready to illuminate our path forward. United, undiminished, we stood poised at the center of our resurgence against the oncoming storm. A battle yet to be fought, a future yet to be claimed. This was our time. A whirlwind of colors and sounds erupted around us as rebellion surged throughout the streets of the arcology. The commotion ignited like dry kindling, whirling into a conflagration of hope and anger. I could feel the fabric of our society shaking, unraveling at the seams as new voices boldly stepped forward to reclaim their stories. United with Nilo and Thren, we stood before the flickering screens in the broadcast center, hearts pounding with the weight of change pulsating at our fingertips. Keep pushing, Thren shouted, his gaze pinned on the monitors still glowing with the Council's sword, its secret slides displaying surveillance algorithms, programming guides embedding psychological manipulation, and logs of dissent swept under the rug. It's not just about revealing this information. It's about presenting it in a way that everyone understands. We need to make a bold statement. I glanced around the room, citizens filling the space, their eyes bright with fervor as they absorbed the gravity of the moment. Activists, mothers, workers, all united in determination, an uprising swelling steadily, fueled by each revelation. Clarion calls of anguish and hope leaped between us, amplifying every fearless heartbeat that willed us forward. "I'll lead them," Nilo said as he stepped closer to the throng, fire sparking in his veins. "This isn't just about the data. It's about empowering our people to rise. Together, we need to advocate for justice. We can't allow them to silence our voices." I nodded, striding alongside him as the raw energy of our shared purpose illuminated our path. "Tell them this isn't just a battle between us and the Council, it's a fight for our identity. Who we are is tied to what we build together. They've kept us in shadows for too long." Thren's eyes darted between us as the seconds ticked perilously close to critical mass. "Then let's stoke that fire. People are already gathered in the plaza. The channels are operational. Let's transmit to them directly. We'll make sure every citizen hears our call." The monitors flickered as the sound of digital connections rushed to life. "Now," I shouted, feeling the heart of the city resonate with our resolve. "It's time to wake the arcology." We launched into the plaza, pushing through the thrumming crowd like a wave, radiating energy that mirrored the bustling life of the city. The space before us sprawled out, filled with citizens raising their voices like a thunderstorm, men and women standing shoulder to shoulder. A collective force that vibrated with unity. Standing atop a makeshift stage that had been erected from scavenged materials, I could see the anticipation glowing in the eyes of countless faces. Thousands of souls ready to reclaim their futures. I took a deep breath, aware of the urgency swelling in the air, and raised my hand to greet the crowd. "People of the arcology." The sound of my voice broke through the tumult, its echo amplified by the eager breaths surrounding me. "You have heard the whispers of darkness that hang above us, amplified councils, rules forged from oppression, but today you stand to reclaim your narrative." The crowd surged back with passionate cries, a wave of sound that filled the plaza and coursed through me like electricity. "Together, we have unearthed the truths they sought to bury. The Council manipulated our stories while they loomed over us like shadows. No longer will we remain adrift waiting for scraps. Stand with us." Nilo's voice matched the rhythm of my own as he joined my side, embracing the power of our connection. "Let's rise from this moment, drawing upon our collective strength. We must unite. There is no room for fear, no space for silence. Asterisk together. Asterisk, we will transform the very core of this arcology." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the masses, eyes shining, fists raised in defiance. The citizens were invigorated, ready to shatter the chains that wrapped around their spirits. Together, I echoed, certainty resonating in my core now, as if my words tethered the essence of the entire assembly. For too long, we have held our breaths, weighed down by the fear wrought upon us. But no more. What we possess is greater than ourselves. It is the heart of our community, the roots that ground us in one another's stories. What we fight for is our right to live freely, to voice our truths loudly and passionately without fear of suppression. A wave of cheers erupted, echoing into the city that loomed around us. I could feel the pulse of every person beating in sync, revival emerging in the core of our hearts. "The Council rests on the very threads of our silence," Thren proclaimed, stepping forward, his voice woven with both urgency and conviction. "Tonight, we dismantle their foundation of control. We reveal Nexus. Let it be known their manipulation ends here. One truth, one story." Came a voice from the crowd, spurring a chant that flowed through us all. "Together we rise." In that moment, we became a crescendo, a coalition of resilience, rewriting our narrative against the oppression that sought to stifle us for far too long. As the sun dipped behind the towering skyline, painting the world in hues of orange and violet, I felt the energy reverberating around us like thunder, every heartbeat hammering against the walls built to contain us. We pressed forward, dodging doubt, ready to seize control. "We will march on the council chambers," I cried, an intensified fervor bubbling deep within me. "We'll unite and lay bare every rotten secret. We'll demand our rights to determine our own futures. We are not mere pawns in their games, but the architects of a new dawn. The crowd roared, voices rising collectively like a tidal wave that could not be tamed. A force of nature, raw and uncompromising, igniting chaos to transform it into hope. Gather your families, Nilo rallied. Tell neighbors, invite friends. We will show them that unity cannot be silenced. Our cries shall echo. We began marching through the streets, a powerful thrumming collecting in our steps as we descended deeper into the customary territory of the council. Reflections of determination surged through me in waves, illuminating the fervor to reclaim our autonomy. I could see sparks igniting in the eyes of others' revolution, a contagious spirit that spread from one heart to another, threading through the crowd as we propelled ourselves forward. The sun dipped lower, illuminating the paths ahead, and as we neared the council chambers, towering monolithic structures cut through the skyline obstacles we would shatter. The confusion among the council enforcers was palpable. They scrambled to organize themselves as they saw us, the wave of resolute citizens surging forward. Tensions mounted as their barricades formed, yet they couldn't contain us. Hold the lines, one officer commanded, uncertainty straining their confidence. Not anymore, I shouted, drawing upon every ounce of energy coursing through my veins. For the future of our families, for understanding. Today, we reclaim your power. We open the gates of truth. As we reached the entrance of the chamber, the energy rippling through the crowd became chaotic. No longer a tightly composed wave, but a tempest filled with a desire to crash through, to reclaim what was rightfully ours. The enforcers struggled to maintain their composure as the tide surged. Time and time again, their barricades were met with the charged determination of weary citizens unwilling to back down. Stand firm, came an authoritative voice crackling over a nearby PA. You are trespassing. Disperse at once. You know. A chorus of voices rose together, defying the power of the command as our collective nerve fused the moment into a singular force. And no longer will we retreat. Our voices matter, the truth will emerge. A surge came, the defiance rattled the very foundation of the council's control. The guards pushed back, but the energy of the united front was unrelenting. With a burst of unified determination, we surged forward together, crashing against the council chambers with a force. It finally yielded. A door swung wide as we toppled over. The display of resolve was electrifying. Reaching the threshold, I stood at the center, where the heart of oppression could be laid bare. This is it, I shouted, son, drenched resolve pulsing in my veins as I faced the assembled councils, huddled in disbelief at the chaos they had incited. You've held our lives, our hopes hostage for far too long. No more, the time has come for your darkness to be extinguished. Stunned silence hung in the air as our voices echoed through the chamber walls. Faces, fraught with expressions of disbelief and looming dread, filled the space, now stripped of their shields. Your secrets are no longer your weapons, Thren shouted, waving the flash drive overhead. You've fostered manipulation while we have fostered the power of community, of truth. The room nearly crackled with the energy of our rebellion, the undercurrents of hope twining into defiance. We are here to reclaim humanity, our right to choose, to voice our truths. No longer will we tolerate your lies. Tonight, we will usher in a new dawn. I shouted, gesturing toward the tower screens illuminating all around us. And just then, as Thren activated the footage stored on the flash drive, the truth spilled forth. A cascade of information outlining the council's conspiracies, a torrent revealing their atrocities, a narrative that urged the citizens toward empowerment. An uproar cascaded throughout the chamber. Disbelief painted the walls of authority. Councils exchanged glances, fear etched over their brows. They'll expose us, one whispered, disbelief morphing into shaken resolve, and just like that, they realized we had summoned the very spirit they feared. Justice, I roared, summoning the rising tide of citizen voices. It is time for liberation. We forged ahead, fiercely entwined in unity, calling forth a revolution that would resonate against the shadowy remnants of suppression. The truth was palpable, echoing through the chamber like a long, lost child returned to its home, a testament to our shared spirit rising from the ashes of betrayal. And in that moment the city trembled, a resonance of awakening firing through its veins as thousands joined us beyond the walls. Our heartbeats and hopes fused into one chorus. Together, we had traced the path we took to arrive here. No longer mere wanderers searching for answers, we became architects of our joint legacy. United in purpose, resilience igniting within our spirits, we cast a radiant light against the night that sought to suppress us. Together, we would reclaim our future from the shadows. Together, we would become the breath of change, the harbinger of a new dawn. And in that brightness, as it began to pierce the gathering darkness, I felt it. An undeniable certainty that the path we had chosen would ripple across time, forever intertwining our stories in the grand narrative of the arcology. The dawn of revolution had arrived, luminous and unyielding, a reality reborn from our courage and pursuit of truth. This, I knew, would be only the beginning. The dawn was alive and our battle had just begun. As the echoes of our collective voice surged through the council chamber, the atmosphere trembled with the intensity of our convictions. Standing at the center of the room, Thren had activated the flash drive, unfolding the repressed secrets hidden within the arcology. Monitors flickered to life, displaying graphs and schematics, images of citizens being monitored, mapped, and catalogued. But there was more hidden in the captured data. The Council's deeper machinations were laid bare, plans that transcended mere control. They aimed to manipulate the very fabric of who we were. Every citizen in the arcology has been reduced to a data point. Thren's voice rang through the chamber, igniting a fire within us. Their lives scrutinized, their thoughts monitored, and their actions predicted long before they ever take place. This is not governance, this is subjugation, a blatant disregard for human life, I added, stepping forward to meet the enforcer's increasingly fearful glares. You see us as resources, tools to bend and break. But today, we reclaim our narratives. Today, we reaffirm our humanity. Behind me, the crowd of citizens surged, a living tide of hope and anger as they filled the chamber, their presence as mighty as a storm. Faces of determination, illuminated with fire, mirrored my own conviction, and the weight of our shared purpose spurred me onward. Suddenly, a voice cut through the chaos, shrill and wavering. An officer stepped forward, hands raised in a desperate attempt to recalibrate the situation. "You don't understand," he shouted, anxiety etching his voice. "Council is doing what must be done. We must be done." I interjected, my words sharp enough to pierce the mounting tension. "Or must be maintained to safeguard power. The control you enforce is but a facade, a crutch for weak governance. You fear us. You fear our truth." His eyes darted behind me, scanning the growing throng. They knew we were no longer just speaking to each other. They were also addressing the tired hearts outside and the souls yearning for liberation. With every breath, I infused my voice with passion and power, constructing a rallying cry against suppression. What they've done is not for our sake, but for their own. It's self-preservation cloaked in false benevolence. If they could eradicate dissent before it even emerged, what would we be left with? A hollow shell without dreams. I continued, my voice thunderous and resolute. A ripple of passion surged through the assembled moment, a chorus of clashing uncertainty and eager curiosity. This was our moment of reckoning. As our words intertwined and converged upon the heart of the council, the matter at hand shifted as fear fused with awakening enlightenment. And just like that, chaos erupted. Guards scrambled to fortify their ranks in a futile attempt to contain us as citizens surged forward, drawn by a unifying force, their fertility of hope fueling the rebellion. I could feel the energetic rhythm pulsate through the very foundation beneath us, momentarily overshadowing the heavy weight of structural authority that sought to rattle momentum. The truth has unfolded, Thren broadcasted, urgency igniting his gaze. We can no longer sit idly by while they suppress our humanity. Smash your chains of despair, don't just witness us, join us, stand against the council's cruel grasp. Together, we are stronger," I shouted, locking eyes with Nilo as he stepped forward, expressing determination so unwavering that the energy flowed through him, igniting hope in the hearts around us. "Together, we can shatter the silencing chains of our existence." Citizens surged forward, an unstoppable wave of fervency cascading forth as they pressed against the council, their bodies forming a wall of tenacity, strong and unyielding. "Join us," came the rallying cry, rising from our throats and spilling out into the arcology. "Join us, join us." The enforcers faltered, and as we broke through the barriers of the council chamber itself, I could feel the flood tide of resilience wash over us, overwhelming the protective shields they had built to contain dissent. There was a promise of liberation in those moments, an assurance that we would no longer be passive observers, slaves to a fate handed down like chains. "Rhea," Nilo called, urgency sparking anew. He gestured toward a console, the very seat of power where decisions were made, actions executed, and humanity relinquished to programming. "We need to upload the footage to the citywide feeds. Once the citizens see the truth, they'll join us." With intentions aligned, we surged toward the console. It was a dance of time and determination. Each keystroke brought us closer to a reset, a possibility of rewriting the equilibrium of our society. "Hold the line," Thren shouted to the gathering crowd, a divine energy threading between us, urging them onward. As we reached the terminal, the sight of the hastily pressed screens illuminated in shifting shades of light put me at the center of something overwhelming. The data, our truths, were seconds away from touching 1,000 souls across the arcology. My hands trembled against the surface as I connected the flash drive. "Rhea, get ready," Thren muttered, fingers bolstered by expertise as he navigated the sprawling interfaces. One breach, one upload, and we'll push the council's words against them, showing everyone exactly the lies they told. The weight of the decision weighed heavily. Outside the morass of congealing discontent, something deeper surged, silently invoking belief. This was our chance to shake the scaffolding that had formed around us, to rattle the tendrils binding our truth beneath despotism. "And now," I shouted, and Thren hit the final command. The screen flickered to life, showcasing the date, feed gently bending toward the reality we had unearthed. The cascading revelations enveloping us shielded against the mass encroaching force of fear. This narrative, the truth, would wash over our people like a divine call to arms. Sparks danced across the monitors, breaking in waves, exposing treacheries long buried, crumbling the authority that held us captive. It transformed into mathematics of heartfelt defiance fires, igniting all around as we ushered the beginnings of rebirth. Citizens of the arcology, Thren's voice became the vehicle of truth, echoing through interconnecting corridors. "You are not mere beings judged by algorithms. You are flesh and blood, voices intertwined against injustice." The screens blossomed with the faces of citizens who had endured, who'd fought against 1,000 overt and covert tides that cascaded toward their souls. The council could not deny it. They could no longer view their citizens as pawns on a chessboard. This was a dynamic force poised to illuminate the shadows that had loomed too long. Behind us, the council shrank, eyes widening as they realized the inevitability of our uprising, a confrontation they had never budgeted for. Faces turned toward each other, visages contorted in disbelief as their authority slipped further from their grasp. In that pivotal moment, the city outside transformed. The collective awakening surge transcending bricks and mortar. A vibrant chorus awash in a surge of humanity. Hope ignited in turbulent spirits, forceful and undaunted. The call for liberation echoed across every corner of the arcology. With newfound vigor, we surged into the square outside the chamber, an impromptu assembly emboldened by our truth. The symphony of chants swelled, rallying cries intertwining and lifting our spirits as hope surged like flames against the gathering dark. "If feel it," I shouted, my voice melding into the collective resonance of souls around me, now joined in battle. "This is our moment. This is where we reclaim our narrative. This is where we take control of our destiny. No longer shall we be silenced. A roar erupted, an unstoppable wave built upon resilience and fights long weary. Together, 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 the crowd chanted. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting the arcology into shades of amber, I felt my heart tethered to something greater than myself. The very essence of what it meant to fight against authority thrummed within us, a vibrant pulse filled with dreams bound in truth and unified strength. And just as we prepared to step into the fold, ready to share our message across the city, the heavy doors of the council chambers swung wide, revealing an array of enforcers locked in determination, unwilling to relinquish their authority. Their gazes darted toward the chaos, clarity seeping into their perception as they processed our determination. In that breath, I understood. Their reckoning lay not simply in our collective energy, but in the souls pushing back against the tide of stagnation and despair. Beneath steel and authority, courage emerged amidst uncertainty. The very essence of our revolution was alive. Face them, I cried, feeling the truth coalesce within me, igniting the fire by which we would fortify the spirit of our journey ahead. We will not back down, we shall not be silenced. We will rise above their darkness, reclaiming our world, our voice. The council looked more like caged animals than authoritative figures. Their resolve crumbled under the light of our courage, reflected in the faces that stood with us. The powerful had become vulnerable, and for those moments we too glimmered. This was our uprising, our herald of hope that would now resonate across the arcology, and we were the movement that would usher in the dawn of a new future. Together, we would break every chain our collective resolve would mark it. As the battle loomed nearer, our breath hitched, igniting within us an understanding of what it meant to reclaim identity beneath the universe we called home. We would no longer be defined by control. We would not merely exist as shadows within the power structure. We were destined for brilliance, strength embodied through each defiance. Together, we dared to seize the light unbound, unrelenting, comfortable within chaos. As we unfolded layer by layer, resurrecting lost truths with every breath we took. Outside, the chorus grew louder, shaking the very halls of the council, reverberating through the arcology as the first chapters of our revolution began to unfold. We were bound towards a new destiny. The dawn loomed large as hope coursed through our veins, threatening to unearth every shadow hidden beneath the surface of control. And so, as one, we stepped forward, hearts pulsing in unison, ready to embrace the unknown and etch our legacy into every heartbeat. Together, forever. Asterisk, asterisk, this was just the beginning. Asterisk, asterisk, we stood shoulder to shoulder, a diverse assemblage of voices and dreams that spurred forward as one. The resonance of our united spirits clashed against the heavy presence of the council as they awkwardly fell back, caught in a whirlwind of astonishment and confusion. Outside the council chambers, the pulse of the arcology beat in rhythm with our chant, a call for liberation that surged like a tidal wave, sweeping through the hearts of those who had been oppressed for far too long. I glanced at Nilo and Thren, their eyes filled with strength that mirrored my own. Together, we had come this far, the journey laden with challenges and revelations now converging into a singular moment ripe with potential. It was time to seize it. Together, I yelled as our strength coalesced, igniting the fervor around us. The citizens echoed back, their voices rising like a storm, drowning any remnants of doubt. Together, 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 we poured into the streets, carving a pathway through the heart of the arcology, our numbers swelling as voices melded together, a cacophony of hope resounding in unison against the council's silence. Crowds followed closely, showering each step with fervor, the very air alive with electrifying anticipation. The broadcast center is just ahead. I shouted, adrenaline fueling my words. Once we reach the main plaza, we will broadcast their secrets for all to hear. We will illuminate the dark corners where their lies have festered. As we rounded a corner, we faced the grand expanse of the main plaza, adorned with remnants of our recent demonstration. Holographic projections, once showcasing twisted narratives of compliance, now flickered and glitched, eerily reflecting the chaos we threatened to unravel. Above us, drones flitted through the air, indicating the urgency of the Council's response. Eyed guardians sent to enforce silence, their whirring engines a reminder of the shadows that still lingered. "Hold steady," Nilo called as he stepped in front of a group of citizens behind us. "Don't let fear creep into your hearts. Defiance is the antidote." We pressed on, the ground beneath our feet vibrating with life. Yet with every step we took, the Council's enforcers surrounded us, forcing the throng of voices away from the central path toward the broadcast center. Perched on platforms above, a sleek black pod hovered ominously, the officers stationed within glinting their visors in harsh, jarring light. Repeatedly, the crowd scattered before them, yet I felt this was the moment where we would stand our ground. "Iria!" Thren shouted, halting my thoughts and pointing toward another group gathering near the edge of the plaza. "We can't afford to lose them. There are families and allies. We need everyone united. Rally them," I exclaimed, gesturing for him to join the fighters gathering close, preparing to resist against the coercive force pushing us apart. "Lead them, Thren. We'll hold this line together." I steeled my gaze, locking onto the descending drones and officers, adrenaline pushing through my veins like fire. "Array yourselves," I commanded as I turned to face the ground troops, pouncing upon our fierce goal. "Stand as one. They can't control all of us." As the enforcers advanced, the citizens began to merge together, intertwining voices rising. Our chant, powerful, it vibrated through the very ground, unyielding and fierce, trembling against the forces swarming to quell our revolution. Words cascaded from my lips, born of relentless strength and ambition. "Together, stand strong. We are no longer pawns manipulated by fear or constrained by their lies. They won't silence our truth. We are the resurgence, the pulse of the arcology." A flurry of fists raised in solidarity outlined the faces of attentive families, young and elder, who drew strength from our call. The air glinted with defiance, the walls of authority trembling at our sheer determination. A wall of chants swarmed forward, forcing even the most formidable officers wavering under pressure to step back, eyes cutting through the synergy of a unified front. And then, seizing the momentum, we moved again toward the broadcast center, our actions threading through uncertainty as we met the unexpected. Nilo, with the strength of his heart, cleared the path, a brave soul surging alongside me, hand raised high to rally the spirits of our allies. Just as we neared the towering building, the Council's enforcers began to push with greater intensity, wielding their technology like weapons against the aspirations that bound us all. Energy pulsing through the crowd, each collective heartbeat intensified, linking us closer together. "To form a solid wall," I shouted, locking my gaze onto the vicious onslaught. "No one gets left behind," and just like that, the citizens responded, gathering behind me, faces hardened with resolve as they formed a thick front. Each body became a shield for the next, and the rhythm of their breaths intermingled with my own, crafting a symphony of resilience. With the Council's enforcers startled, confusion flickering across their ranks, we found ourselves within reach of the broadcasting center, artificial lighting glinting as if shining down upon a hallowed ground. The building's exterior loomed against the sky, a stark, oppressive presence reinforced by the weight of secrets clamoring to escape. "What's needed now is unity," I shouted, standing upon the edge of the plaza to meet their eager faces. The many threads of hope converged from all walks of life, flowers blooming from cracks in the asphalt, yearning for light. Together we stand, together we rise, together we reclaim our destinies. With each declaration, the barricades built by fear began to tremble, and we advanced toward the glowing entrance. "Thren, guide us," I urged. "Get us to the control panel. Anyone with tech skills, join him. We'll need everyone to override their systems." Darkened shadows filled the plaza as Council enforcers prepared for one final push, their voices rallying opposition. "We will not let you through. Move aside. This is your final warning." But we would not yield. As the council's demand echoed above us, we clasped fingers, lacing strength from the varied groups who held hope tightly in their hearts. An electric current pulsed within a wildfire brandishing change that could not be snuffed out. "You're in the wrong place at the wrong time," Nilo shouted back defiantly. "We stand against your tyranny, no more bloodshed, no more control." Thus stoked, our bodies propelled forward like arrows against constructed defenses as we broke through, surging beyond their lock through raw, pent-up emotion and conviction. Delighting in what lay ahead of us, we filed toward the control panel, positioned before the broadcast center's enormous screens, black surfaces, silhouetting the confidence, invigorating every pulse of rebellion rising around us. "Stand as one," I commanded, feeling steel resolve wash over my chest as the grounding force mirrored in every face around me. "We reclaim our fate. We rally against suppression, not including the shadow of fear." With Nilo's support at my side, we entered the threshold leading into the central control room. Drones buzzed through the air, dropping pixels that glimmered like stars set to engulf the plaza. But without pause, I jumped toward the central panels, the hope of all we cherished on my shoulders. "Let's illuminate the sun," I cried, fingers gliding over a series of buttons as I entered the sequence for the citywide broadcast. The system's word to life, and a sapling of fear fluttered into the reserve. An agony they had nurtured for years, and now it would unravel. "A truth," Thren shouted as the screens powered up, illuminating the room, casting us into the light. "Today we rise together, no longer ensnared. Listen to our voices resonate. We are the heartbeat of the arcology." The drones flooded the air, a heartbeat of surveillance that once sought to capture truth but faltered in the presence of our unity. The screens illuminated the council's secrets, cascading depictions of power stacked against lives manipulated beneath the shadow of 1,000 lies. As footage streamed, the spirit of every gathering emerged. The early footage was raw, capturing the turmoil of confrontations against shockwaves of solidarity. "This is our truth," I declared, my voice amplified through the speakers, resonating like a clarion call across the expanse of the arcology landscape. Intent on dismantling darkness and laying our expectations bare, we are made not just from hope, but from resilience forged through strife. With every flicker upon those screens, lives flickered before us, citizens laid bare against manipulation, struggles against oppression so painfully human. And in that melding of reality, fear rushed against the edges. Incited by determination, we linked hands through the shards of the past crackling alive. And with every pulse of truth embedded, something new began to stir among us. "Now," Nilo yelled, urgency coursing through his voice. A direct connections toward communal screens, broadcast our uprising, transmit our truth. Thren surged forward to synchronize the feeds. The screens erupted, flooding the entirety of the plaza with vivid imagery that outlined our struggles and triumphs. Our voices booming profusely, collectively signaling that all would reckon with accountability. Arise and reclaim today, a shift imminent. Together we transcend beyond oppression. The screens flared with illuminations, cascading images that spoke of futures unshackled. The symphony of our voices swelling as it reverberated in the hearts of the citizens gathered around. Outside, the atmosphere shifted, the air crackling with hope as support surged across the districts, kindling embers into embodied flames, a singular refrain echoing through alleyways, infusing the heartbeats of citizens sprawled across the arcology. At the edge of control, officers stood stunned, gazes flickering between the screens and the riot of voices surging forward. The fear wrapped around them twisted and crumbled, and even as they attempted their last gasp of authority, it unraveled against the vibrant sounds rising against them. "And no more shall you dictate our futures," I cried, my voice resonating amongst the hastening tide of hope and courage nurtured anew. "I invoke the truth. The impending dawn backs our collective journey forward. The council will no longer reign in shadows among us. The crescendo of voices resonated across the city, flooding across plazas and markets, mingling between commonplace struggles now caught within the thread of revolution. A transformative mirror reflecting our essence, reminiscent of our aspirations and unyielding spirits. And in that moment, victory began to dawn. The encroaching shadows of suppression dissolved beneath the weight of our call. We were becoming something greater than ourselves. As the screens played our narratives, a surge of unshakable identity emerged, unfurling against everything that sought to keep us down. The council, stacked hopelessly against the wave of humanity, faced the onslaught of our unified strength. As the sounds of victory melded into an orchestrated cacophony, the air filled with resonant, dauntless truths, we knew that the arcology was no longer a realm defined merely by the council's desires, but the essence of hope reborn, fueled by every dream we shared. Together, the crowd echoed, a powerhouse of energy against the council's chants falling to defeat, drowning them in resolute affirmation. Together, I added, arms raised toward the heavens, the sparks igniting under every chose, every perilous journey we had undertaken. Together we rise, the dawn of change upon us. Our stories echo through every breath we take. We surged forward, reclaiming our destinies, our identities, our lives, no longer shackled beneath the confines of control. We were a forest of undying resolve, each individual forging paths beneath the canopy of unity, wildfires blazing through the hearts of the arcology. In this victory, we transformed the narrative, flickers of ambition and change blossoming with an unassailable rhythm. And soon the sun poured forth above us, a dazzling, unimpeded light gleaming upon our resolute forms, bursting forth like wildfire. A new day unfolding from the ashes of despair. We were alive with purpose, unfurled destiny woven from the fabric of our unity, a creation of a new age, a time to seize our truths and rise, resplendent. Above, a luminous banner waved in the breeze, a phoenix emerging from the ruins of stagnation, and in it, I saw the very heart of the arcology pulsing with the promise of what we could become united. And as we emerged, each step tinged with purpose, I realized the truth. We would not only unearth our voices, but forge them into tangible designs of destiny, carrying forward the legacy of our uprising. A storm of tenacity against any darkness poised to encroach again. We would remain vigilant, forever unyielding. Together, we began again.